Now, today is one of those days where events on the other side of the world do dominate our news and dominate our consciousness. Now, yes, it was on the other side of the world and plenty of terrible things happen on the other side of the world. But a bomb going off at, not one, but two bombs going off at the end of the Boston Marathon was something that chilled everyone when we first heard about it this morning as we woke up, as we slowly saw the pictures unfold here on Sky News. The enormity of what had happened is truly frightening. And I know terrible things happen. In fact, in Baghdad today, 50 people died in a roadside bombing that had happened there. In Afghanistan, horrible things happen every day. But there is an affinity between Australia and the United States, and there's a familiarity of lifestyles. What happened here was that this was a marathon being held on a public holiday. So think about that. Think about any major Australian public holiday and the events that might happen in your town. It could be the fireworks that go off to celebrate the birthday of your town. It could be just a weekend where you run from the city to the surf. It could be people running and raising money for cancer charities. It could be people going on long bike rides. And some lowlife, some nasty bastard decided that these were the people, and the people who were helping them and who were supporting them deserved to die. In the coming days, we'll find out exactly what had happened here, and no doubt we'll hear all sorts of grandiose reasons as to why this has happened. But there are a few things that always come to mind at times like this. And it's the heartbreak that is there for anyone who is in the world of law enforcement. Because in the case of the United States, you know that there is a very, very long distance between what happened in 2001 in New York and Washington and Pennsylvania and what has happened today in Boston. That is many, many years. That is dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of threats. Hundreds of people who just were talking about doing something. And this is, yet again, the horrible proof that even when police and law officials and government and people of good heart and soul work their absolute guts out, putting their bodies on the line right around the world, that they can get it right 99.99% of the time. And for that we are very, very thankful. But on days like today, we are reminded that the reason why we need to remain vigilant, the reason why we need to spend lots of money, the reason why we need to keep up our guard is because, sadly, there will be one person who gets through. Thankfully, this doesn't happen in Australia. Sadly, it happens in too many parts of the world, including parts of the world that we are unfamiliar with and very familiar with. And something too that we like to pride ourselves about in Australia when floods take place or bushfires is that there's something uniquely Australian about people who run towards disaster. Well, there is something that is inherently human that we saw today in Boston, that we've seen before in London, that we've seen in Madrid, no doubt we saw in Baghdad as well today. There are a special breed of people who run towards trouble, when most of us would simply be either confused or might even run the other way. The people who are the emergency officials, the people who are the off-duty coppers, or the people who just think they can help. They ran towards trouble today when, sure, a few hours on, we knew there was only ever two bombs. But as I'll show you in a couple of moments, for the many, many, many minutes and a couple of hours after those bombs went off, nobody knew what was going to happen. Yet still that special breed of people who get head down, bum up and go and help is something that is worth recognising on a day like today. We will talk about it this evening. It won't dominate our program, but I thought it was important, as we often bitch and moan about stuff that truly doesn't matter, that today a death toll might be 3, including a little 8-year-old. But there's also about 150 people who are very severely injured, a lot of people who are critically injured. But also a reminder that all these people were doing was enjoying a public holiday, doing something they wanted to do, which was to go for a run. Something that wasn't hedonistic, wasn't evil, wasn't drinking, wasn't taking drugs, wasn't doing something evil. They were just doing something that was good for themselves, or in often, many cases, they were raising money. And that's what makes this even weirder.